Taehyung, an embrace in the midst of grief. The air was heavy that day, quiet, somber, and filled with an unspoken understanding of loss. Kim Taehyung and Jungkook had just attended the funeral of the beloved grandmother of Jung Hoseok. It was not just a farewell to someone cherished, but also a moment that revealed something deeply human, something raw, unfiltered, and profoundly real. Grief has a way of silencing even the strongest voices. And in that silence, emotions speak louder than words ever could. Taehyung had always been known for his gentle soul. Those who knew him understood that beneath his bright smile was a heart that felt deeply, perhaps more deeply than he ever let on. But on that day, standing before the final resting place of someone so dearly respected, he could no longer hold it in. He lowered his head, his shoulders trembling ever so slightly. At first, it was subtle, almost as if he were trying to contain the storm within him. But grief is not something that can be neatly folded away. It rises, it crashes, and eventually it spills over. Tears fell, slowly, quietly, but undeniably. Each drop carried not just sorrow, but memories, shared laughter, warmth, fleeting moments that now lived only in the past. The pain was not solely his to bear, yet he carried it as if it were. His expression revealed a depth of loss that went beyond words, as though he, too, had lost someone irreplaceable. And in that fragile moment, Jungkook moved. There was no hesitation, no need for permission, no words exchanged. He stepped closer, closing the quiet distance between them. His arm gently wrapped around Taehyung's shoulders, pulling him into a warm, steady embrace. It was simple, so simple that it could have gone unnoticed by many. But within that gesture lay something immeasurable. It was comfort. It was understanding. It was presence. Taehyung didn't resist. Instead, he leaned in, allowing himself, perhaps for the first time that day, to let go. In Jungkook's arms, there was a brief sense of stillness, like finding shelter in the middle of a storm that refused to quiet. Jungkook didn't speak, but he didn't need to. His presence said everything. He wasn't just standing there as a friend out of obligation. He was there fully grounded, unwavering, offering himself as a source of strength when Taehyung needed it most. In that moment, he became more than just someone beside him. He became support. He became reassurance. He became, even if only temporarily, a place Taehyung could rest. At one point, Jungkook gently lifted his hand and wiped away the tears that had fallen across Taehyung's cheeks. The gesture was careful, almost protective, like he was handling something fragile, something precious. His gaze was soft, filled with concern and quiet empathy. If his eyes could speak, they would have said, "I'm here. You don't have to go through this alone." Sometimes, the most powerful words are the ones never spoken. Jungkook gave a light pat on Taehyung's back. Once, then again. A small motion, yet it carried so much meaning. It was a language of its own. A language of care, of sincerity, of choosing not to leave someone behind when they are at their most vulnerable. The moment touched many who witnessed it, not because of who they were, but because of what they showed. In a world that often places them under constant attention, where every move is observed and interpreted, this moment stood apart. It wasn't performance. It wasn't image. It was simply human. two people, one grieving, one holding him together. As time passed and the ceremony came to an end, they slowly began to walk away from the burial site, side by side, not rushed, not distant, just quietly present with each other. Their eyes were swollen, their hearts heavy, yet even in that wait, they remained close. There was something unspoken between them, a shared understanding that didn't require explanation. In the stillness, Jungkook leaned slightly closer and whispered, his voice barely audible. "It's okay, you can cry. I'm here." Such simple words. And yet, they carried the strength of something far greater. For someone in pain, those words can feel like an anchor, something to hold on to when everything else feels like it's slipping away. Taehyung's hand tightened, gripping onto Jungkook's clothing as if it were the only thing keeping him steady. His voice, soft and fragile, responded almost like a breath. "Thank you, don't let go of me just yet." And for a brief moment, the world seemed to pause. No cameras, no expectations, no noise. Just two souls, standing quietly in the aftermath of loss, holding onto each other without judgment, without hesitation, only sincerity. Outside of that moment, there may always be voices that misunderstand, that interpret things differently, that look for meanings beyond what is simply there. But the truth of that moment was never complicated. It was empathy. It was presence. It was love in its most human form, not defined, not labeled, just felt. For many, what Taehyung and Jungkook showed that day was more than just a touching scene. It was a reminder that grief is something we all experience, a reminder that strength does not mean standing alone, and most importantly, a reminder that in our darkest moments, what we often need most is not answers or solutions, but someone who stays, someone who doesn't turn away, someone who reaches out and says, "You're not alone." Because in the end, loss is never easy. It leaves a space that cannot be filled, a silence that lingers longer than we expect. But within that silence, there can also be connection, quiet, steady, and deeply meaningful. And to have someone willing to hold your hand, to stand beside you, even when the world feels like it's falling apart, that is something truly priceless.